Thanks for clicking. Half of Canadians fear they will never own a home as the recession and higher interest rates crush home buying hopes. This according to the media's account of a recent poll from the Bank of Montreal. And yeah, that is a real problem. Half of Canadians fearing they will never own a home, especially since 65% of them already do.
Math.
Yeah, the widely reported poll is said to make the case that Canadians have either given up or are putting their home buying plans on hold due to recessionary fears coming out of the United States. And this poll might sound familiar, as BMO conducted a similar one last year when it found that 72% of would-be homebuyers were just waiting for rate cuts to jump back in the market, which the media also fumbled, with the Financial Post telling us 72% of Canadians were waiting for rate cuts until jumping into the market. A difference of, give or take, about 14 million people.
That was not my intention.
But the media's handling of this poll, and the poll itself, especially compared to last year's, does raise some questions about where and how Canadians get their information. So what I want to do today is go over the poll that's being so widely reported and take a look at how it's being reported, compare that with the poll of last year, and then discuss some implications for Canadians moving forward. And then we're going to run a poll on this channel asking if you think that A, the media is a puppet of the real estate industry, or B, just incompetent. Look, as we'll see today, the media may not read the things it cites, but we do on this channel. Click like and subscribe if you want more of that bare minimum reporting. But for now, let's get into this poll. Onto the poll. As mentioned, the BMO poll is being widely cited as revealing half of Canadians fear they will never own a home, which is just, look, here's what the poll actually says. Half, 50%, believe owning a home is less attainable than it was 12 months ago, which is a big difference from never owning a home. Never owning a home is hyperbole, and I'm not even sure it's barely accurate hyperbole.
That's what we're looking for.
And whether or not it's actually half of all Canadians that think owning a home is less attainable than it was 12 months ago, we don't really know. BMO says that it spoke to 4,500 people and that 38% are waiting for rates to drop before purchasing or refinancing a home, which tells me that a large number of the respondents already own a home, as you have to own one in order to refinance to begin with. A conclusion only amplified by the fact that 43% of homeowners said they needed family assistance when they bought their home. So there's three big problems here right away. BMO doesn't give us an accurate breakdown as to how many homeowners they surveyed versus how many home buyers. Aspiring home buyers, which we'll see later, is ever important. 2, the media doesn't recognize that BMO hasn't given us the accurate data, the data that we need. And 3, from what I can tell at least, the media doesn't even realize that it's a problem. But let's say that the media did have a baseline of journalistic professionalism.
I won't do it.
Don't be so dismissive, just let me show you what happens when you do. If you were to compare this recent poll from BMO to the one that the media cited ad nauseum last year when they were trying to push the FOMO, they'd remember that BMO told us that 13% of aspiring homeowners plan to buy in 2024 and 26% planned on buying in 2025 or later. Fast forward to this year and you'll find that those numbers haven't really changed, with 14% planning to buy this year and 24% buying next year. So according to the polls, the numbers really haven't changed that much, even amid A, massive tariff uncertainty, and B, the observable, demonstrable changes in buying behavior occurring everywhere, with Toronto sales down 23% from this point in time last year. So, real-world behavior changes drastically, but the polling numbers don't change barely at all. That's a big problem, and one that's not being pointed out in the reporting on these polls. Further, if we look at the math from last year, we can see the extent to which these polls even have predictive capacity. Or not.
No math.
Just try it. We did the math on it last year, if only to point out the nonsense reporting in the Financial Post that 72% of Canadians were planning on jumping in the market when the bank cut rates. We found that since that poll said it was 72% of 39% of aspiring homeowners, or about 28% of Canadians, that's about 9 million people that were going to buy when the bank cut rates. And even before the tariff talk, the Bank of Canada had cut rates by 125 basis points. Did 9 million people flood into the market like the puppets predicted?
It was incredible. A lot of people say,
No, it wasn't. Sales in Toronto in November, third worst for the past 11 Novembers. That's not buyers flooding back into the market. That's not 72% of would-be buyers flooding back into the market. That's actually a fairly concerning statistic, which should make us question the predictive, or even the descriptive, value of these polls, which are kind of their only job. And it's pretty clear why these polls don't really pan out. I had noted this last year. These polls use Ipsos, which pays for its surveys. Meaning, it's not half of Canadians that are planning on jumping in the market, it's not half of Canadians that have given up or think that homes are less attainable than they were a year ago to be accurate. It's 50% of people that take paid surveys, which could be why those 72% of Canadians that were going to buy when the bank cut rates didn't end up buying when the bank cut rates.
What the f*** is that?
Or let's even recall when the Financial Post misreported that poll coming from Royal LePage at the beginning of 2024, telling us that half of Canadians had put their home buying plans on hold and half of them had planned on returning to the market when the bank cut rates. Which, of course, that's exactly not what that poll said. The poll said that of the 27% of the adult population that had been in the market, half of them got out due to the rate cuts, a misreporting of about 8 million people. So you can very much see why the breakdown from the Bank of Montreal would be so important, as these polls, as we've seen in both the Royal LePage poll and the BMO poll from last year, are hardly ever reported accurately. And again, even that poll, if it was reported accurately, which it wasn't, but if it was, that poll used Ledger, which again pays for its surveys. Meaning, as we saw with the number of Canadians that didn't flood into the market, its predictive value is questionable at best. So the media is giving us all of these polls, all of these insights into the future of Canadian real estate, and they're either A, not reading the polls, or B, reading them but not being able to interpret them.
I am not doing too much.
I am not.
Full stop.
And look, we've noted media bias for the real estate industry on this channel on multiple occasions. As I had always assumed, the media was biased in favor of its advertisers. But now we look at the most recent BMO poll and it's being misreported in a manner that doesn't really help the real estate industry. So now I'm starting to wonder whether or not it's just incompetence.
Why can't we do both?
As such, we're going to run a poll on this channel asking you what you think. Is the media just biased in favor of the real estate industry and its advertisers? Or is it just massively incompetent? But I digress. The real problem is that we see these polls propagated all over the media, which would make you think that we're seeing a massively big downturn in sentiment on the Canadian real estate industry, which we probably are, but that's not what this poll says. This poll doesn't really match the data, and it's not being reported on as such. This poll isn't really giving us the breakdown to support the conclusions being propagated in the media, and given the way that the media has reported on previous polls, misreported on previous polls, those breakdowns are sorely needed. With that said, we will obviously continue to read the reports that get propagated on the media on this channel, trying to separate the noise from reality. Make sure you click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, thanks so much for watching.